you just mentioned. So, what were the Jewish intellectual features of that age? How did, in terms of, as you said, secular philosophy and thinking, and also in Jewish philosophy and thought?
Right. So it's another interesting pattern is today you have a very strong separation in the more religious the Jewish world is, the less open it is to secular studies, so to speak. You find both in the Islamic world and in the Jewish world at the time a much greater openness, a holistic kind of worldview, because again, the secular studies was not viewed as, whereas in Enlightenment in Europe, you often have many attacks against religion in general as being anti-intellectual, closed-minded, and not in keeping with modern science, and backward and ossified. Back then, there was no conflict, which I think, by the way, personally, is there can't be really a conflict between things like science and math and religion. If it's all truth on a spiritual or physical or scientific level, it should all merge together. So what you have in this world of Islam, which was quite open and far less reactionary and fanatical than it later becomes, is a great interest in classical knowledge. Remember, we assume that the further we go in history, the more technologically advanced people are, and it's always better later. That's another big topic. But the reality is of the Roman Empire was far more technologically advanced, orderly, and civilized than Europe of 1,000 years ago. And with the collapse of the Roman Empire in the West in 475, when it was overrun by Germanic peoples, Europe goes into what's called the Dark Ages. The Roman Empire contracts. They controlled the entire Mediterranean 2,000 years ago. And all of that accumulated knowledge of not just Rome, but of Greece and everything that came before is largely lost to a world which declines in so many, intellectually and scientifically in many ways. And that early Islamic world, a lot with the help of Jews, by the way, and Christian scholars, is really interested in rediscovering that knowledge and expanding on it. When I say rediscovering, obviously it's not written in Arabic, which is the language that 90% of the Jews of the world spoke Arabic 1,000 years plus ago. That was the language. Now, today we talk about Yiddish in Eastern Europe, but the international language of the Middle East and Spain was Arabic. I mean, Jews spoke other languages too, but the classical knowledge was not in Arabic. So Jews were very involved, together with Christians and other Islamic scholars, in translating Greek and Latin works into Arabic, by the way, sharing them with Jews in Europe, who reintroduced them later back into European society and were largely the seed, the trigger, the catalyst for much of the reawakening of knowledge in the Renaissance. But it also is involved in, it's not just a question of rediscovering what was lost. There was a tremendous amount of innovation, mathematics and science and medicine. And Jews played key roles in these fields because, unlike medieval Europe, where Jews are locked out of professions and trades, Jews who are always traditionally more literate people and more international in that we have connections and access all over the world because Jews were scattered around the world, and generally multilingual because we are always living as strangers in other countries. We can communicate amongst each other in Hebrew, but we learn the local languages, be it Latin, Greek, Arabic, whatever. The Jews were like a really, really key position to act as translators, innovators, and contribute in math, in science, in medicine. And even what's most interesting of all is the interest that they had, especially the Islamic world, in poetry. And used to have these like poetry slam contests, like you have rap competitions. And it was all the beautiful use of the Arabic language, and Jews excelled in this. And some of these great Jewish scholars were also great Jewish poets. I know it sounds kind of weird, a rabbi doing rap, but this is what was going on. So you have a situation which I do not believe has ever been duplicated since, of an Islamic world which was deeply religious yet very open, combined with a Jewish world which was very religious and welcomed into that open world and did not view any conflict with secular studies. Rather, it all worked together beautifully. And you have this amazing synthesis and creativity that benefited, it's again symbiotic. It benefited the Jews who achieved tremendous levels of prosperity and productivity, and even political power. People like Hasdai ibn Shaprut, who was the vizier. He was like commander of the army of the Caliph of Cordoba in the 10th century. And he was a doctor, and he was a rabbi, and he was a philosopher, and he was a poet. His mother must have been so happy. He has like a trifecta of everything. So it was a very unique period of time, something I would have loved to go back and see. in all of its glory, the Islamic world at the height of this golden age in Spain.